What's up, Breakers? Ohpee here. I'm here to talk to you guys a little bit about builds between two gauntlets that combine, not just what's the highest frost damage build, or what's the highest stone shaper damage build, or what's the quickest toxicologist build. Combination guides to help you guys actually play the game instead of just using one side or the other. First up, we have Dragonfire. Dragonfire is my build. Dragonfire is my thing, which is fire and tox put together. Now, what is fire? Fire is the close to mid-range projectile that's a little bit slower. It has 0 damage drop off from distance. It has a flame wall. It leaves flame puddles. It's amazing. If you don't use it, you should at least try it. It feels so satisfying to get it done. And then you've got Tox. Tox is the close range, kind of like a shotgun. It's got 9 projectiles. It also doesn't have damage drop off from distance. However, when you are farther back, the 9 projectiles spread out a little bit more. They fan out. And so you can only hit like 1 or 2, which is technically, I guess, damage drop off, but it's only because it's fanned out. So less damage that way. And it has a toxic cloud. You can combine these 6 different ways to make Dragonfire, and I will show you each of them as I go. But there's only really 2 steps. Step 1, toss either fire down or tox down. Step 2, blow it up with the other one. It's pretty much it. It creates this giant green, beautiful flame. If you blow up a toxic cloud, it even also has the dragon roar, which is incredible. When it comes to runes for this guide, I like to use Dash is my #1 go-to. You can also use Flight, Spring Step, and Featherfall. Anything to kind of keep you up and above the play field, or zipping around to try to like do all of these crazy cool. You kind of want to always be on the move when you're in Dragonfire. In order to do that, in my opinion, you kind of have to have Dash, but you can use those other 3 that I mentioned. You can also use the other ones. In my opinion, those are the 3 that I go with. Instead of Dash, if I don't choose to pick up Dash or I can't find a Dash, it would be Spring Step, Flight, or Featherfall. You can, however, use the other ones. And when Shadow Step comes back, if it's already in the game when you guys watch this, it won't be in the game when you watch it when it comes out, but if this video lasts for a while and Shadow Step's back in the game, definitely use Shadow Step. It's primo supremo, and that's probably what I will be using when it comes back. As far as talents, I'm gonna give you guys 2 for each one. Body, I'm gonna go with Runic Fluency or Harmony. Runic Fluency increases your rune charge by 1, decreases your rune charge percentage. Harmony, you're immune to all CC, all crowd control. It means you don't get stuck on your puddles, you don't get frozen in anything ice, you don't get shocked by anything related to lightning. You also have an incoming damage reduction that increases as you level them up. When it comes to mind, my two favorites are Fervor and Dexterity. You can also use Scavenging if you want to as a 3rd slot for solos, but if we're talking overall solos, duo, trios, what makes the sense would be Fervor and Dexterity. Dexterity increases your jump height and decreases your mana for levitation. Fervor increases your spell cast speed. Now, a lot of people don't understand quite what that means. Spell cast speed is not how fast your fire or your wind shears or whatever gets from point A to point B. That's not what it means. It means how many shots you can get off in a certain time period. So instead of being like, oh, my fireball got from point A to point B in 2 seconds and now gets to 1, that's not at all what it means. It's how many fireballs did you get off in those 2 seconds. When it comes to Spirit, you can use pretty much anything in this set except Vital Stone. Do not use it. It is 3 points. It is half of the points you are allowed to use. Don't use it for this build. Don't use it. I guess in some meme builds, you could probably use Vital Stone for fun. You could probably ask Trammy. Trammy will probably show you how to use it. But if you want to be good at this game, don't use Vital Stone. My 2 picks, though, are going to be Recovery and Recklessness. Recovery, it regens 50% of your health damage. Not your shield, just your health damage, your red bar damage. It regenerates 50% of that within the time slot that it shows you. I think it starts off with 12 seconds and then goes down as more you upgrade. I think it caps at 6 seconds, which is crazy fast for regen speed. Recklessness gives you a damage boost when you have no belt. So if you're fighting, you have a belt equipped and you run out of armor, it procs and you get damage bonus. And you get mana bonus. So you get, if you have no belt or you ran out of shield, you have a damage boost and your mana and your projectiles cost less mana, which is huge. Guys, another tip though for you guys is mana does not, levitation is affected by mana. However, the levitation for mana is not affected by amulets. So even if you get a better amulet, that does not mean you're gonna have more levitation. Just keep that in mind. You can use Thirsty if you want. Thirsty is a fantastic talent. However, in my opinion, there are not a lot of pots on the map right now. So it doesn't really make sense to use that, especially late game. At the moment is pretty chaotic. You're not gonna have time to land and heal up, but you will have time for recovery and recklessness, which you don't have to do anything for to proc them. They just proc when you have no shield. They're gonna be active. So you can use those zipping around, being around every corner, stuff like that. Tip number 1 for Dragonfire. You can blow up any kind of tox. You can blow up any kind of fire. If there's a puddle on the ground, you can blow it up with fire. If there is a fire campfire that's been happened from the normal source, the normal spell, you can slap it with tox and it'll turn green. Puddles do way more damage than they do the cloud. I know the cloud is badass. The cloud only typically does 20 damage. It does have 2 ticks of 20, but for the most part, people are in and out at that 20. They only get 20 damage. However, a puddle, you stick somebody to that puddle in the toxicologist class, blow it up, that 20 ticks over and over and over. Forever. Don't forget to use your walls for damage and for movement in the pyro class. Don't forget to use your toxic cloud for damage and for movement. I would prefer to run Dragonfire on the pyro class, mainly because I feel like pyro is in a kind of a higher tier right now than tox. You have to be invis to get really the highest benefits from toxicologist at the moment, and in order to stay invis in Dragonfire, you don't really want to use the invis rune in Dragonfire. However, the only way to stay invis to get that 75% bonus on outbreak in toxicologist is to go through your cloud. And if you're running Dragonfire, that can be very, very dangerous. So stick with pyro. I'm telling you, it's so much better for Dragonfire. You can definitely use it. You won't get the benefit. You don't get the benefit of the toxic puddles, but there are enough people out there that possibly have toxicologists, and you can just use their puddles if you really need to. Another thing to remember, guys, is that sorceries, no matter the rarity of Gauntlet, do not change damage. So a firewall, unless you're in Pyrolysis, which is the 3rd tier in Pyro, unless it's the blue wall, you will only do 6 damage per tick. Same with the Toxic Cloud, you will only do 6 damage per tick. Now, however, both have tick damage on the outside when you enter. When you leave, one's for Ignite for Pyro, and you don't have to be in Pyro to have that Ignite. You don't have to have Toxicologist to have the corrosion damage tick on exiting Toxic. So there's a lot of playability. You can get very creative here. It's not strictly a what do you do, how do you do this type of thing. It is a you do you, zip in and out, cause as much mayhem as possible, and have a fun time while you're doing it. It is one of the most fun builds, in my opinion, to this game. You aren't gonna have a lot of far out damage. You're not gonna have that reach that you could have with lightning and ice. So you're gonna want to get as close as possible to people that do, because if you don't close that gap, they're gonna get you instantly, because you have a close range gauntlet and a close to mid range gauntlet. Sometimes you can hit those crazy fireball shots. I've been hitting them a lot recently, which is kind of weird to me, but you can hit crazy long distance shots if you really focus in and get good at it. But for the most part, you're gonna want to fight in that close to mid range kind of area. So push the up in their face. It's a very W key, forward left stick play style. Like I said, you can run this on Pyro or Toxicologist. You can run pretty much any combination of skills as you want. Like you can use focus mana in that first slot if you want to. You can use scavenging in that second slot if you want to. You can use escapist in that last slot if you want to. You can use pretty much whatever. You can be very creative. But that's it for me today, guys. Next up, we have Chariot. If you don't know what Chariot is stone and fire. It's a little bit different. It's a lot of fun. Teach you next time. Love you guys. Have a good day.